America! Alright, it's Tuesday, my dudes. We're gonna talk about some awesome stuff today, specifically motors, oscillations, and vibrations on quads, even brand new quads that have oscillations, and troubleshooting and kind of experience that I've experienced where I figured something out over time and it took forever, and it was kind of counterintuitive as far as how it actually was resolved. But it makes sense now, hindsight's 2020, and it didn't really dawn on me until doing this recently that that what I'm talking about, getting rid of oscillations on a new quad, was a reality, and what exactly caused it to have oscillations and all of this nonsense. So in this video I'm going to talk about motors and how they vibrate, what makes a quad have oscillations, and we'll talk about other things that make quads have oscillations, tuning, frame flexibility, frame stiffness, all of that. But mainly this will be about motors, bells, and changing things out, and then chasing your tail with tuning, because I know I've had issues with tuning in the past, and I have some quads that fly really good and some quads that don't, and I have a video on this actually about gear getting old, and then that becoming, what's the lifespan of an actual drone, drone components. So let me tell you about what happened today that kind of dawned on me, as far as I have one quad that flies really well, and I have a backup quad that I've just always hated, and it's been brand new ever since I got it. I built 3 quads all at once. The Steele V2s came out, as far as I got pre-production samples. The pre-production samples essentially are exactly like the production model, except they have the Team Black Sheep logo and the middle finger instead of the screw and the Ethics logo. So when I got those, they were super pre-production. I got 16 of them or something, and I just put them all on my quads because why not? It's the version 2, it's got the steel shaft. So I built 4 brand new quads. All of them have KISS V2, all of them have Mr. Steele V2s on them, but they're, like I said, the pre-production model. All of them are Mr. Steele Aliens, they're identical. I built them all myself, everything was perfect. So I've had all of these quads, and I've flown all of them at different times, but there's always been this one quad that flew really, really well, and that is this beast right here. Now, this beast, I don't know why, but I have been flying it for 7 or 8 months now. I have not changed anything on it. I think the only thing I've changed is the top plate, and that's it, literally. Oh, and I changed the receiver, so the nano crossfire receivers came out. Hey, calm down over there, guy. That's all I've done. I haven't changed anything. This thing is super old school. And we'll talk about frame flexibility and stuff later, because this thing is definitely not as stiff as it used to be compared to a brand new Alien like right here, or another brand new Alien right here. And why are the motors off? And I'll talk to you about that right now. So this morning I went out and flew with Eric, and I had crashed this the other day when I was flying with Chad Nowak, and it wasn't a hard crash, but this camera is pretty old, and the camera now looks like it's melting. And I couldn't fly it, obviously, because I didn't have any camera anymore. So I was kind of pissed about that, and I busted out my backup quad, which is this quad right here. So this has been my backup quad, and it is pretty much brand new, other than a few hard landings, just skidding on the concrete and stuff. It's pretty new. It has no real dings or dents or anything on it. All of the components are super clean still, and there's not a lot of just dirt in general. This quad is very, very new, and it's never really flown well. And I took it out this morning. We hiked up this little mountain thing, Eric and I, and flew from the top of it and did some long range stuff. And for me, long range is not really about going and ripping somewhere really far away. It's about just getting there and getting smooth, flowy shots. And that quad in particular had extreme amounts of mid-throttle oscillations, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I took it down, tuned it, adjusted PIDs, adjusted the LPF filters to just obnoxious amounts to where it should have completely gotten rid of any oscillation that was in the quad, and it didn't get rid of it. And I was very concerned at that point. I'm like, this is KISS V2, should totally be able to get rid of all these oscillations. So anyways, brought it back, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine a couple months ago. His name is Chris Love. just a buddy that I met at an event that we just kind of hit it off. And anyways, he was talking to me about motors, and he was talking to me about, specifically about the V2s, and he's like, yo, I got some of these, and some of them are a little bit out of balance compared to the others. Like, he has one that's really smooth, and he has one that's super out of balance. But it's not super. Like, I'll show you what he's talking about on the KISS thing, the motor testing tab. So anyways, when I say out of balance, we're talking about when you test it on the computer and it shows up and it's vibrating the gyro. And I will show you how to do that in a second. But like I said, Chris said, hey, some of these things are out of balance. Should I be concerned? I'm like, no, you shouldn't, because I don't have any problems with them. The production models are very much good to go. It was the pre-production models that had some issues with balancing, but all of the QC got sorted out before they went to production. Obviously some can slip through because they're all hand balanced, but for the most part, if you have a problem with any of these, just let us know, let TBS know, they'll send you a new one. But that's kind of what we're here for, is to make sure everything is, you know, good. The quality control is under control. If you have a problem, again, let me know, because we can get it sorted and it'll help us in the long run. But regardless, he had some motors that were out of balance. And what I told him was like, look, dude, you can spend all day balancing your motors, but the first crash you have, they're going to be out of balance. So, you know, yeah, you can go onto your computer and you can hook it up and you can set it up to be like, oh, you know, I'm going to go into the motor test tab, which I will show you right now to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So this is my beater quad, the one that's been, you know, super buttery for me forever, right? When you see what these motors are gonna do on this computer screen, you're probably gonna disregard everything that you've ever heard from anyone about balancing anything. You know, I used to balance all my props and do all kinds of gnarly stuff back in the day to try to get rid of oscillations. So let me show you what I'm talking about when I talk about motor testing. So if you go into the KISS GUI, for those people that do want my PIDs, there they are. You can go ahead and screenshot them, put them all over the internet. They're not any different. I over time increase rate, or increase RC rate and reduce rate, so that I can get rid of some of that expo to get more of a linear feel. But other than that, pretty much these PIDs are exactly like the V1 PIDs, except I've increased the Ps slightly, because with the V2 KISS you can increase the Ps. So anyways, so you go into KISS, we're gonna do a motor test. So I turn the quad on with the props off, I have it plugged into the USB, I have my radio on, I go into KISS here and I go to advanced output, I click motor test, I say yes, I know what I'm doing because I don't have the props on, and then you'll see this little bar down here, which is actually correlated with the gyro on the aircraft. So when you shake it or do stuff to it, you can see it moving on the screen and you can see it coming through on the gyro reading, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna test a motor. We're gonna go up here, we're gonna click individually test motor, which is this little tab that I clicked right there. Then we're gonna go over here, we're gonna click motor 1, and then we're gonna go over here and we're gonna arm the quad, and you'll see that now motor 1 is spinning, right? And I'm gonna spool up, right? I can do whatever I need to do. So if you look on this screen, you'll see that there are some lines and stuff, right? So this is about mid-throttle. That's a little bit like 65, 70%, 80%, yeah, 85. That's about 90. That's about 100. Yeah, sorry, 90, 95, and then 100. So you saw at 90, about 90%. Look how bad that is. You can hear it, it's really loud, right? You can see it. It's freaking obnoxiously out of balance. Or maybe not out of balance, but it's obnoxiously noisy. So all of the motors are like that on this quad. And this quad is my smoothest quad. I have very rarely have issues with this quad with vibrations, and the only time I really do is when I go to a new environment that's either at a really high altitude or something like that, usually it's high altitude, to be quite honest. When the air is thinner, you need to retune if you really want crystal like clean footage. And I get too lazy and I just don't really care. And when I'm flying, like in some of those videos where I was traveling across the country, they're like, why do you have jello? I'm like, dude, first of all, I'm flying in the middle of the day, which is the most obvious time to fly for jello. It doesn't matter what quad you've had. if you run no ND filter in the middle of the day on 60 FPS, you're probably going to see jello regardless of how smooth your quad is. I dare people to go out there and make videos midday, like direct sunlight with a GoPro and 60 FPS, because if you cannot get jello on consistent flights, like not just one flight, like fly an entire day, and I guarantee you will see jello. But with that being said, you gotta, like, that's why a lot of people fly at dusk, to get rid of some of that harsh lighting. It kind of helps reduce the jello, and that's why a lot of people fly on 30 FPS. There are a lot of reasons that people fly specific things, specific times of day, and specific environments to beat around the bush of the whole jello situation. But kind of the entire encompassing act of this video is to show you that my butteriest quad, this is the smoothest quad that I have, and it's freaking dead. Like, the arms are twistable, like the actual rigidity of the frame is severely compromised because of how old it is. This thing is probably 8 months old, like been full on bashed and beaten for the last 8 months. Like, you shouldn't be able to bend an Alien at all. I'm not really trying that hard to bend it, and it's bending. This is twisty. Like, you can, this actually arm's pretty stiff. How you can tell, like, arms are getting delaminated over time because there's so much vibrations going through the quad, and this is just a generic thing with quad lifespan. So the more you fly it, the more vibrations come from the motors. It's just inherent that you're going to fly with a quad with a broken prop, or you're going to fly with something that's going to cause vibrations, and eventually it's going to wear on the arms, and they're going to delaminate inside, and they begin to get twisty. And like I said, this quad is about 8 months old, and it's not in the best shape in the world, but it is super smooth, and this is the quad that I would want to have as my reliable butter quad if I were to go out and fly and I wanted clean video. And I have these quads over here that are freaking brand new. Why are they oscillating? Why is there problems? These are brand new, they should have no problems, right? Well, yes, I agree that if you had all 4 motors that were equally smooth from the beginning and you crashed and hit a bell, then usually you get oscillations, right? So my theory, it's not really a theory, it's kind of a proven thing, but it dawned upon me this morning, really, when I was testing, that if you have a brand new quad and you have 3 motors that are extremely well balanced, and then you have one really noisy motor, that's usually when you start to introduce oscillations into the quad, because you have one motor that's kind of uneven. It's like this quad, for example. All of the motors are shitty, so the quad flies smooth. Where when I have a brand new quad, 3 of the motors are smooth, and this one in particular was really, really noisy. And like I said, these are pre-production models, so don't think that all of my motors are inconsistent. Just this particular quad, again, like, this is a production model because it has ethics on it. This is a pre-production because it says TBS. So, and it wasn't the bell in particular on these motors. It was actually the stator. The bearings were bad. Like, I had to modify these things. Like, I had to sand down these. You can see on the pre-productions, like, this is eating through because there's too much of a lip there. Like, a lot was changed on the pre-productions from the actual production model. So you can't compare the pre-production to the production now. But like I said, this quad doesn't fly very well. It's brand new, literally out of the box. Everything is brand new. And the reasoning is because one of the motors is noisy and the rest of them are smooth. Same thing with this quad. One of the motors was extremely noisy. Well, in this particular case, this motor was extremely smooth and all of these were extremely noisy. So I'm just going to replace all of them because this is the only one. That's the production model. The only smooth one on the entire quad was the production model one, and the rest of them are smoked. And I put this one back on there so that I could show how much vibration was there. But yeah, I ended up scrapping that video and making a new one because, you know, I wanted to talk to you about it. So again, I have 4 brand new quads here. This is the only one that's old, that's like my favorite, and I'm trying to make things work again. And it's been frustrating me because I've had this quad that's been super buttery, and I've not wanted to fly the new quads because the new quads just had vibration problems, and I think I figured out why. And it's because the motors are inconsistently noisy, especially with the pre-production model motors. So I'm gonna go ahead and just swap out all new motors on there, and yeah. And one last thing, as far as oscillations are concerned, you can have oscillations based on an arm being floppy. You can have oscillations by, usually if you dent one bell, denting a bell, causing a lot of noise on one arm, that usually causes it. I guess the end all result is that if you have one arm that has a shitty motor on it, it's going to induce more oscillations than if you have all shitty motors or all new motors. That's kind of the takeaway from this. And then also frame design. If you have a stiffer frame, it's going to help reduce some of those oscillations, going to make tuning a little bit easier, going to give you a better flight characteristic. So yeah, I hope you learned something today. I am at Eric's shop. We're about to go to lunch, and hopefully my succulents don't decide they want to go to the moon. What are you doing over here, bro? Got anything good? You just fucking OCDing out, cleaning stuff up?
Yeah, man, cleaning all the mad aluminum.
All that mad dustage.
When you work with aluminum, you get fucked.
That's gross. Anybody want a Viper? 18 grand right now. I get 3 of it.
17.5.
17.5?
Just went down.
Come get it. It's got frame damage. Buy it though. It's got a V10 in it, my dudes. The hood is good.
Everything's solid except the fucking little bit of the frame.
Yep. And that wheel. That wheel is smoked.
That wheel's so smoked.
That wheel and that tire. You might need a new tire. The wheel, totally salvageable. Totally holds a bead, my dude.
Dude, you see the wheel I replaced it with?
Yeah, it's fucking soft. Super lightweight.
Super lightweight. Handles this thing, no problem. That's the way to go.
Come get your Viper.
Motherfucking Dayton's.
Motherfucking Dayton's. Alright guys. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good Tuesday, my dudes.